We welcome you back to the second edition of the Mike Keith Show. Thanks for coming back, or if you missed the first one, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. On this edition of the program, Tony Vitello, Tennessee's baseball coach, is on to talk about a big weekend series. John Gruden, who has strong University of Tennessee ties, will join us. And also excited to bring in the person who will be my color commentator on the Ball Radio Network this fall. We'll introduce you to him later in this edition of the Mike Keith Show. But again, thank you for coming back. And while you're here, just click subscribe to the Tennessee Athletics YouTube channel and click that bell beside it too, so you'll get notifications. And so you'll know when we have a show up, but you'll also know when a lot of our other great programming is available, because you love all the things you see from VFL Films and you want to get all of them. This is the way to do it. So click subscribe, click the bell beside it, and you'll be notified. What is it we say? Subscribe, comment, review, rate, all of those things. Do all of that and then some. We look forward to having you with us through the entire journey, and it starts with the head baseball coach of your national champions. Glad to have you with us for the show. Big baseball weekend at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Texas A&M in town for 3. And, of course, if we're going to talk baseball, we got to talk to the man, Tony Vitello, head coach. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome to the Mike Keith Show.
I'm honored.
Yes,
trust me. I thought in order to talk to you, I had to be good at football. I didn't even play football. But now that you're a Vol again, I'm glad I get to wear orange every day, but especially now that I get to visit with you.
Well, that's great. Thank you for saying that. And, I love baseball.
Yes.
I was a baseball player long ago in a land far away, so it is near and dear to my heart. And John Wilkerson does a fantastic job around the baseball, but I like to sneak over and watch. So.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that are involved in the athletic department that like to come over there, and they've all got different spots they like to be, whether it's the porches or closer to the action. Eventually we'll have suites, but it's becoming a monstrous stadium over there that's got a variety of spots you can hang out and watch.
Well, I'm superstitious. So if it's going well, I'm not moving.
Sure.
If it's not going well, I'm on the move half inning to half inning. I'm one of those people.
Well, you did play baseball in the past then if you're that superstitious.
Yeah.
But no,
sadly, because there's no real reason to be superstitious except there is.
Yeah, there's research that people who are more successful, they make more money, and I think it probably ties into routines and rituals, and that also things are important to you. So your fandom in those cases is important to you, and so I think it helps. If you think it helps, it helps.
Well, it was important to me you go to South Carolina and get 3 this weekend.
Yeah.
And you did. And with Texas A&M coming in this upcoming weekend, it was big to go get those 3 games, all of which you trailed at some point, and all of which you faced some adversity. I think probably for this ball club, it was really impressive how you went about taking those 3 games.
Yeah, and it's important for their development too, because we are doing well, but you can't lose sight of the fact that Sunday we only threw freshmen on the mound. Over the course of the weekend, we started 4 different freshmen positionally. And then this is a team too. You have some key cogs in the machine last year, but a lot of new leaders, new faces. So they're still finding themselves a little bit. So to go through those things is crucial. To go through them and have success is crucial and beneficial combined.
Did you think in the fall that you would be playing and throwing freshmen in key situations halfway through the year?
I think with the pitching, everything was up for grabs. When we lost over 400 innings, about 70% of the innings thrown last year, we knew everything was up for grabs. And I think in the fall, we teetered back and forth. These freshmen looked better than these guys, and then these guys looked better than the freshmen, and some guys had to get healthy. So it's yet to really fully settle, I think, but we're getting closer.
Yeah, but, to get Tegan Coons and what you're getting from him starting on Sundays, and then Braden Krenzel coming in and doing the job like he did last Sunday, any bit surprised that they are mature enough to handle a Sunday SEC game like they have?
Not entirely with Tegan. I think our concern was him being physical enough and withstanding, things that were going to be thrown upon them for the first time. All these guys are playing more baseball than they've ever played. So, your velo will creep down. Your weight will maybe fade a little bit if you're not putting in your work. So it's more stressful. It's just a lot. But Tegan had a track record in high school for not being afraid of competition and being in big situations. So you thought he'd be prepared, but again, maybe not this much. And then with Krenzel and a lot of other guys, a couple of guys aren't healthy that are really good arms on our campus yet. With him, it was a matter of getting healthy. And then once we did, his dad played for the Bears and, obviously was Ohio State quarterback. He's grew up in a household where we thought he'd be able to withstand the quote unquote pressure of what goes on in the league.
Coons and Krenzel names you hear, other names you hear, but names that you mentioned this weekend, Quentin Eberhardt and Beth Schwartz.
Yeah, 100%.
Why are those two names so important to Tennessee baseball heading into April?
I'm glad you highlighted that because we are going down to the stretch of the season. You're marching towards May, and you want to play your best ball in May, as you mentioned, or April, so we're right next door. Guys can fade, and I caught myself saying that to you earlier in one of my answers. Like, our guys traditionally do not do that. Manny Marin's a freshman who's been great for us. He's a little lean, but he's getting stronger as the season's going on, and he's putting on weight. How that happens is proper diet, proper sleep habits, and proper workout habits in the weight room. And Quentin Eberhardt is our strength coach, and Beth is our dietitian. I say nutritionist just because I'm, whatever word is the catchphrase. The key is she's another coach of our players, and she coaches them on how to behave when we go to a restaurant or we get food. The guys are often so polite. They help clean up. They're good about bringing leftovers, and they're good about preparing for what's next ahead of them in a busy schedule. So all that's insanely valuable for the coaching staff because it makes them better people and it makes them better players. It's not just, hey, eat this or you need to gain weight or lose weight. It's another coach we have on our team. And speaking of team, they make a great team or duo with Q because you can't have a great strength coach without proper nutrition. It's more than half the battle. And then you could flip it and say vice versa too. So the way they complement each other is great. They work well together. But how much they do for our guys is incredible because, a lot of people, I'll finish with this too. A lot of people hesitate at the SEC tournament wanting to see their team go all in and try and win that thing because they'd rather see them go to Omaha or win a national championship. And last year we were able to go through the whole tournament, and it wasn't an easy path. We didn't win every game, and yet still have success after that. And I think those two get a ton of credit.
I want to ask you about your offense because people talk about the home runs over and over, and they should. But this ball club, I mean, you can do situational baseball. We've seen that. We've seen you execute small ball and be able to do some things with the sacrifice. As we head down the stretch, and we're halfway through this year, could this end up being your most versatile offense at Tennessee?
Yeah, I like that. I hadn't thought about it entirely in that mode. When we first got hired, with Frank being the first, coach and really kind of the secondary head coach, if that makes sense. I mean, Frank had been a head coach and so experienced. He's a pitching guy. It was going to be about pitching and defense. And with our guys getting stronger in the weight room, the park can play live at times. We've been, with Coach Elander recruiting, we got guys earlier in our tenure than I thought we would that were really gifted. So next thing you know, the ball's flying out of the park, and that's kind of been our MO. But in 21, I think we got kind of hung up on that was almost our only deal. And, other situations I could bring up too. 23, there was hit or miss days at the ballpark, and this group's a little more consistent, and it's evolving. You're starting to see guys like Andrew Fisher, who loves to swing for the fences. All you got to do is turn on the TV to see that. But shortening up every now and then and just putting the ball in play to get an RBI or with 2 strikes fighting and making adjustments that way. And so you're seeing the group already pretty versatile, and they're evolving into even more versatile.
Speaking of Andrew Fisher, I think about he and Dean Curley as two guys who are not afraid to move around.
Yeah.
You need him at this spot, you need him at that spot. Is that rubbing off on this ball club as you continue to tweak things, that guys in leadership positions put their ego aside, check it at the door and say, hey, I'll go where I need to go. And if I sit out today, fine, I'm ready to go tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, you saw last night in the post-game press conference with our basketball players, two in particular, but really the whole group. It was all about the other people, the guy next to him, and about Coach Barnes and the other coaches. That has a multitude, of benefits that you can't really even do the math on, or really even put it into words, because now players are more willing to listen to the coaches. And then, those guys are able to be true leaders, and none of the players can say, well, they're not listening to the.
Right.
So it's just really hard to describe how vital it is to have leaders on your team, but to have your best players be your leaders and not just get out on the field and do it, but lead by example and basically do. I'm here for the team to do what's ever beneficial for them, and I'm going to put aside my goals. And usually, your best players have pretty lofty goals: big leagues, more money, more NIL, first round, their agents in their ear, and as it's part of their job. And they've always been getting all the accolades. To set that aside and say, what do we got to do to make sure when we meet in the outfield, everybody's happy because we won the game? It's hard to describe how valuable it is. And
Okay.
those guys obviously are two good examples.
I apologize. I'm
You're
a
good.
Reese Chapman guy.
As you should be.
I'm a fan. 15 of his 31 hits are for extra bases. He's doing a good job getting on base. He has 5 assists in the outfield. Junior from Colorado, playing really good baseball for the Vols right now. And as we talk about different names, and there are plenty of names to talk about, everybody has their favorites. Maybe he doesn't get discussed enough.
Yeah, and I think he's fine with that because he's such an unassuming kid. I don't know that the coaches would be, especially Coach E and the other guys that are always in the cage, because that guy will wear it out in the cage about as much as anybody. And he is our favorite. I know I'm not a parent, but I know you're not supposed to choose favorites. But he is maybe not necessarily our favorite player, but our favorite type of player. Identified by Coach Elander at a young age. Brought him to camp, brought him on visits, really developed a relationship with the kid even before he got here. And then when he got here, he realized freshman year is pretty tough. Maybe I don't get to play all the time. So I got to work. I got to do more. I got to listen. I got to learn, pay attention to how these older guys are getting better. And then gets a bigger taste last year, but I don't want to say he was okay with not being, the main shtick or the movie star on the poster. But tell me what my role is. Tell me what my task is. I'll do it as best as possible. And I'm going to be hungry if I'm not getting as much as I want. And then fully developed into, this is my time. This is my year. This is my team. And he's treating it the way that you should. You just go do it. And his hard work is paying off.
Feels like Marcus Phillips might be the pitching version of what you're just talking about.
I think to an extreme. I would say on steroids, but that's you don't want to throw that.
No.
Yeah. But a even more extreme version of that because of how young he is. He should be younger or a class earlier. Reese is from Denver, but you go to the Dakotas, that's even colder and less ball up there. Junior college as a freshman, used to be a two-way guy, used to be a big-time basketball player. He was just a pup last year, but I think he grew up. He helped us win and grew up at the same time, which was a really fun combination, I'm sure, for him. But now it's more fun for us because there is no more of that lack of experience or development or figure out what's going on. It's a full-on bloom we're getting to see of his talent. And I think the scary thing is if you're a team that's able to draft him, his best days are well ahead of him.
He's got some nasty about him now, which
Yeah.
it didn't feel like he had last year as he was pitching particularly late in the season.
Yeah, and I think the nasty is the stuff, but also the presence. And I don't think he really realized, and I've said it now a bunch of times, we're playing Vanderbilt, and I know, they're in our state too, and everyone's, this and that and the other. But you go play ball. You don't need to, talk smack or extra stuff after. And he kind of heard all year long, you need to have presence. Dude, you know how big you are and how good your stuff is. And I think he was trying to figure out what exactly that was and didn't take it far enough and then took it too far in that Vanderbilt example. And then we had to kind of corral him in, and he's confused. It's like, well, you're telling me to be the big bad dude on the mound, and I just was like, nah. So, again, a lot of lessons learned and a lot of hard work on his part, a lot of listening, and also just a lot of adapting and formulating what is the best approach for him. And right now you're seeing great presence and great stuff combined, which is what brings you to the word nasty when he's up there.
All right, let's talk about this weekend. Texas A&M comes to town. New coach. They've gotten off to a rough start, but we certainly know they have talent and ability. And we see in this league people turn it around at different points. You guys did it 2 years ago in the Vanderbilt series. I mean, it happens.
Right.
This is a team that can make that happen. What do you need to do well against A&M this weekend?
Sure. Well, it's not from lack of coaching. I mean, JK is their pitching coach. Their pitchers are doing great. He's been a head coach like Frank before. I think that's kind of in the same mode there. And the starting pitching has been a rock for them. It's just when you lose Gavin Grahovic, who's even at a young age, he was kind of their Dean Curley last year. And so you'd have to envision our team last year without Dean. And we did have a lot of strong pieces around him, but Gavin gets hurt, and then a couple other things get thrown out of whack. And it is a year where they lose a lot of leadership like we do. It can go one way or the other quickly. And like you mentioned, it's gone down a road of adversity for them, but it'll only be a matter of time before it turns because the talent is there, the coaching is there, just the timing of things haven't synced up necessarily for them. So we know we're going to see great starting pitching. Because those guys have logged innings, it's made their bullpen stronger. And then an offense that's, regardless if you're looking 1 through 9, somewhere in there is going to be the all-time Texas A&M home run leader in Lavalette. So you're going to have to deal with that like we dealt with Petrie this weekend in South Carolina.
Good luck. Get 3 more.
I'm all for it, but let's go one at a time.
One at a time, I know. Well, I mean, you take the series first.
Yeah.
That would be the idea. Is
You know what was best to me, and I don't want to steal too much time.
Go.
But so many people texted or said, man, it's tough to win on the road, and you guys got a sweep. They prefaced it rather than, which is great because SEC fans are the most electric in the country. European soccer fans might, or the other nations. I don't know how you compare that, but in the country, they're the most extreme. So to get them to see that, it's a challenge just to win on the road in general is huge. And it's nice that they appreciate that because other people will say, let's get a sweep. And it's like, well, the weekend hasn't even started yet.
sorry.
I
won't do it again. I'm sorry. I'm getting greedy now. I'm sorry.
I like the energy and I like the positivity, but as a baseball guy, like you go back to your superstitions. It's not superstitions, just routines. And for us, we'd really like to win the first inning on Friday, and then we'll worry about the second inning. And I think that's a good approach. But hey, I like now that our fans are all on board. We still seem to be accumulating some. And now they've got high standards, and they really seem to be learning the game, some of the new ones as they go along. And, man, when we go on the road, it's almost awkward how many high fives, autographs, cheers we get in these opposing stadiums because of how well they're traveling.
Well, I mean, the SEC latest coaches poll, 8 of the top 10 teams in the country are SEC teams.
Yeah.
Half the conference is in the top 10.
It's insane, and it stems from the fans because they generate the bigger facilities,
Right.
the bigger contracts for coaches, the NIL money, and I think you saw basketball. When I grew up, it was the Big East.
Right.
And, Alonzo Mourning, and then, ACC was always phenomenal, Jim Valvano at NC State, and now the SEC, we'll see how the Final Four goes, but overall kind of the king of the pack, and I think NIL has something to do with that. But SEC baseball has always been strong, and it just seems to be getting stronger.
Tony, thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Welcome to the show. So glad to have a special guest, former University of Tennessee graduate assistant coach John Gruden. Welcome back to campus.
Mike, thank you. What a great thrill. What great memories that kind of rush through your mind. This place is just, it's the best. And it's come so far with the facilities, the whole operation. I look at the whole athletic department. The men's basketball team, the baseball team, the women's basketball team is back humming.
Softball?
And Heupel's done a phenomenal job. And softball, heck, I can't tell you what a great job they've done here.
Yeah. Let me talk to you about how you got here, because let me just set it up. So Tennessee fans love you because they have always known that you associated with the University of Tennessee. You, through good times, bad times, whatever, you're a Tennessee guy. That's how they feel about you and have always felt about you. We know you played at Dayton.
Yeah.
Your first job was right here. How did you become a graduate assistant at Tennessee and start that relationship?
Great question. You know, my dad was a coach. My dad was a personnel director at this time for the Tampa Bay Bucks. He had an assistant named Gary Horton. And Gary Horton coached at Illinois, where Walt Harris came from. Walt Harris was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. He was the mastermind that helped the Vols beat the Hurricanes in the Sugar Bowl. So Gary Horton knew Walt Harris, and everybody knew that I wanted to be a coach. And he said, I know a guy at Tennessee, his name is Walt Harris. So I got my Grand Prix, and I drove down, and I interviewed with Walt Harris. And he gave me the job. And I went from the University of Dayton, where I did not know what a 3 technique was. I couldn't tell you what cover 3 was. I knew nothing. But Walt Harris, he took me in like a guy off the street, and he beat me up and taught me the game. And being around Johnny Majors and Phil Fulmer and David Cutcliffe and that defensive staff, Ken Donahue, Ron Zook, we had an unbelievable group of guys. And to be in that environment at Tennessee at that point in my life, it was the most exciting thing I've ever been a part of.
All right, so offensively, Philip Fulmer's the offensive line
Yeah.
coach. David Cutcliffe coaches tight ends. Kippy Brown has wide receivers. Doug Matthews,
Running back coach.
really good coach, running back coach. Walt Harris coaches quarterbacks, and he's the offensive coordinator,
That's
right?
right, yep.
All right. Walt Harris was a very serious, exacting man as a coach when I watched him in practice here.
Mm-hmm.
What was he like to work for as a GA?
He was tough. He was tough. I mean, he was always studying, always working, and very demanding. He's a perfectionist. He had tip sheets. Walt Harris was very organized and very disciplined, and he was tough on you. I'd get in a car, I'd drive him home, I'd take him to a golf outing. He said, I'm going to interview you the whole way there. You tell me about 64 protection. What are we doing against this defense? What are we doing against that defense? Fundamentals, drill work, scheme. He was always grinding, always studying, and he wanted things done, man. He wanted it done, and his work ethic was second to none. He was in there early. He stayed late, sacrificed a lot for this business, for this team, and it reflected, what kind of coach he was. It was just how much time he put in, how much he loved it, and how much he knew about the game. And I was fortunate to break in under him.
All right, so urban legend that I have to know is true, that he once reamed out John Gruden for how you stapled something
That's
together.
right.
That's
He
a true
wanted-
story.
He wanted the thing stapled at a 45-degree angle. You imagine that?
Why?
I don't. How the hell do I know? I don't know. I was just, yes, sir. Coffee. You had one cream in the coffee. Those were the days, where I think it was kind of a weeding out process. Let's see how mentally tough this guy is. But I remember this. We were using the old 16 millimeter film. And I was the guy that would pick up the film after the game. And I would take it back to the GA's office, and I would splice it together so the coaches would come in and it'd be a sideline, and then it'd be end zone. And I stayed up all night doing that. And I tried to show Walt Harris, you can't get to me, Walt. Even today, he still can't break me. Yeah, it was crazy. He was maniacal, and I think part of that lives inside of me still today.
Can you still really call plays from those days?
I can. I can still call flip right double X jet, 36 counter naked waggle at 7, X quarter. We used to run.
What is that? What is that?
It was just a formation, the motion. Waggle is the protection, and the route is waggle at 8 Z quarter. But I remember Terrence Cleveland. I remember Anthony Miller, Anthony Harper. I remember the whole offensive line. Basically, we had Richard Cooper and John Bruin. William Howard was our running back. Keith Davis. I can still remember. I still have the playbooks. I still have all the information. Our big thing was 3 wides. We had to play 3 receivers at a time, and we used the I formation. And we would run the ball, 6 or opposite. We had a little scheme. To the right was 6, 7 was to the left. But we would call 6, and it had to be a certain look, a 3 technique. If not, we would go opposite, and we'd run it over there. So I learned the audible system in Tennessee, and we had the best perimeter quick screen game I've ever seen. Green Rip and Green Liz. Anthony Miller became a first-round draft choice on that play. But 88 blue, that was a game changer. But I'll tell you a story. I sat in the press box next to Walt. And he said, don't ever talk to me. But I had these little yellow Stickum sheets. And I would write ideas and hand it to him. Most of the time, he would look at it and throw it away. One year, we're playing Auburn, and I wrote down, draw pass 8, go, alert post. So we're playing Auburn. We got to have this game. I'll never forget this. Walt calls, hey, go draw pass 8, go, and tell Jeff Francis to look to the post. He threw the post, and we made a big play to tie Auburn, and that was a big tie at that time. So the next day, we're watching the film, and Coach Majors walks in feeling pretty good. And that play comes on, draw pass 8, go, and Walt Harris stopped the projector, and he says, hey, Coach, Gruden called that play. And Coach Majors walks up to me, and he goes, atta boy. That was the greatest day of my coaching career, that day right there. Because Walt was a great guy. He gave you credit when credit was due, and he got on your ass now if it wasn't good enough. And I think that's what makes a great football team. That's what makes a great coach.
I love Johnny Majors.
Yeah.
I took his coaching football class when I was here.
Yeah.
I still know why you quit kick. I understand all of those sorts of things. He wasn't always totally lovable, though. He certainly had a temper. Why is it you love John Majors the way you always have?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. My wife dated Coach Majors' son for 3 years. And then when they broke up, I drove in for the kill, as they say. But
Wait a minute, wait.
yeah,
So your wife,
she dated
before
Coach.
she dated you,
She dated
Johnny Majors' son, John.
That's right. For I think 2 or 3 years, and then they broke up. And lucky for me, I'm still standing. If you know what I mean.
Well, I was going to say that's
Yeah. But
John Gruden. That's a tricky move right there. That you're going to start dating your boss's
well, believe me,
son's-
Phil Fulmer and the guys, they said, you got a lot of guts, Gruden. I took a lot of heat. But anyways, I lived in the Stokely Athletic Center. It's no longer here. It was a dormitory
Right.
where we housed the players. And they wanted me to live in that dorm to keep an eye on things. Can you imagine that? I'm the
No.
only GA living in a damn dorm. So there were nights where they would call me and say, Coach Majors needs a ride home. So I would take him home at night. And sometimes I'd have to pick him up in the morning. And I got to know him pretty good. And then sometimes he would send me on errands to go pick up a ham or do something. But I got to know him really well. And I got to love him. And I cherish some of the memories, really. But I'll never forget when I was coaching the Raiders, it was my second year, I got an award for the AFC Coach of the Year. And it was a big deal at the Kansas City Sports Writers Affair. Sorry for the long-winded thing, but I go to Kansas City to get my award, and they said, you got to have an acceptance speaker, someone to give you the award. Well, I tried to get Mike Holmgren, my former boss at Green Bay, but he just took the Seattle job, so I called Coach Majors. Oh, I'll be happy to do that. You know, he comes down to Kansas City, and he gets up there to present me with the award. And all he does for the first 7 minutes is talk about my wife, Cindy. His wife is a beautiful little girl. She's the greatest thing. I walked up to her. I said, can I have the damn award? I got to get out of here. But we had a lot of fun together and played some golf in the years to come and stayed connected. And you are right, though. He was a hard guy to figure out sometimes, but deep down, nobody loved Tennessee like Johnny Majors.
There's no question. There is
Yeah.
there is no question. Coach Majors was one of a kind, and we miss him. Tennessee has always taken so much pride in you and the fact that you have the connection. Philip Fulmer always has. David Cutcliffe always has. All of these coaches have. Some of them you've encountered in the pros because Kippy Brown went on to become an NFL assistant.
Mm-hmm.
What has that meant to you, having that connection and that feeling that these coaches that you revered in that way, can you describe it?
No, I really can. That's why I keep coming back here. That's why we built the place up here in Sevierville. We love it. You know, I love them, and I love this place. This is where it all started for me. You talk about, you know, developing a passion for football or, you know, life. This Knoxville, Tennessee is a great place to get it. I got the fever right here in these walls, man. And, you know, you come out of that stadium, you hear Rocky Top, you know, you see the colors. You just feel the aura when you get here, and it never leaves you.
So you know at different times your name has been thrown around when the Tennessee
Yeah.
job has been open.
Yep.
So as you sit here on campus with basically your football family and all that's kind of gone by, did anything ever really get real?
Yeah, you know, it did. I think when I was doing Monday Night Football, there were some serious talks. I just wasn't ready to do college football. I was broadcasting Monday Night Football, and I really felt if I'd have become the head coach here at Tennessee, I probably would have got in all kind of trouble with recruiting because I want to get all the best players. You know, I wasn't ready for it, but I had talked to Peyton and Kenny Chesney, some of my favorite volunteers. You know, and sometimes I look back on my life wondering what would have happened, but I stuck the NFL. I want to stick in the NFL. I had a good thing going with broadcasting, and unfortunately I never pulled the trigger to get in with the Orange, but I'm still their biggest fan.
Had you really put together a staff as
I had people ready to go. Yeah, I did. I had people ready to go, and I was eager, honestly, to be a college coach. When I got fired by Tampa, I was really ticked off, as you can imagine. And I went to Oregon, and I spent a few days with Chip Kelly, who really was turning the corner with the college football offense, the no huddle. It was bizarre. So I learned. And then I went to Alabama with Nick Saban, and Joe Pendry was the offensive line coach. And I got to see how it worked on two different polar opposite ends. I was preparing to be a college coach, but I just didn't feel like doing the grind of recruiting. I didn't see that as me. I just like to sit in the lab and scheme football and coach football. I wanted to stay closer to my wheelhouse, and some days I wonder what could have been.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, well,
Are you familiar with the term groomers?
yeah, I've heard that. And
Now, did you do anything? Now, you're a Raider guy.
Yeah.
And the Raiders are known to stir it up. Did you ever kind of show up at an orange and white game, or
No.
you didn't try? Just
Well,
for fun?
my son went to college
Yeah,
here.
sure.
I mean, Michael's going to college here, so it's okay to come back and see your son. So I did come back and see my son at his fraternity. Took a bunch of the fraternity guys out to Ruth Chris, right on the water, and I went to the South Carolina Tennessee game because we had a Monday night game in Nashville for the Titans. So I drove to Knoxville and I went to the game, and everybody's like, Gruden's trying to get the job. I ain't trying to get the job. I was just seeing my son. But I got to visit with Coach Heupel and meet his wife last night, and maybe I can come back here and be a GA all over again. That's the job I want.
Really?
Oh, hell yeah. I'll just go up to my barn, and I'll come down here and break down tapes and live happily ever after.
What about Heupel's offense and Josh's scheme, from a guy who knows it the way you do? What is you like conceptually about Tennessee's offense?
Well, they stretch the field horizontally and vertically.
Okay.
They make you defend every blade of grass. And they're very disciplined in how they do it. They can throw it over your head very creatively, and they can also run the ball. They got a guy, running back, had 20 touchdowns rushing. So they can jam it at you, they can fake it and throw it over your head, and they have all the perimeter bells and whistles that you need. And I don't know how he's done it with the way the SEC has changed. I mean, I don't even know who's in the SEC now. You're playing like Texas. You're playing teams that traditionally you don't see. So he's had to adapt, and I look for him to keep reinventing his system as he continues to add new players year in and year out. But I think the way they spread the field with these splits, the usage of tempo, you never know how fast they're going to snap it, and they do have a lot of skilled players. They got a lot of talented people at quarterback, on the offensive line, and at receiver, and the guy's a hell of a coach. He can read your mail. He studies the defense, and when they look to the sideline, he gives them a signal that's pretty good. So it's a well-oiled machine, and it's fun to watch.
Thank you for coming back, and thank you for taking time with us here. But also, and I can't speak for every Tennessee fan, but you've carried the flag year after year on a national scale for all of us that love Tennessee, and that's always been very meaningful. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
You are, in our minds, a VFL, no doubt.
Well, thank you. It's great to see you
John,
again.
great
And
to see you.
I love listening to you every week.
The Vol Network's 75-year history has featured 4 outstanding play-by-play announcers: Lindsey Nelson, George Mooney, John Ward, and Bob Kessling. Those 4 have greatly benefited from the football acumen of 4 outstanding color analysts: Bob Fox, Bill Anderson, Tim Priest, and Pat Ryan. The new Vol Network analyst will fit perfectly into that group. Like Bob Fox, he led by being one of the best players on his University of Tennessee teams. Like Bill Anderson, he had a long NFL career that included a Super Bowl appearance. Like Tim Priest, he's from a small, wonderful West Tennessee town where football is king. And like Pat Ryan, he cut his broadcasting teeth on Sundays in Nashville. He's a former Tennessee football captain who loves the Big Orange as much as any VFL. You'll hear that on Saturdays for sure, but he'll provide Vol Network listeners with professional analysis of each play. In other words, he's the perfect person to continue the tradition of Fox, Anderson, Priest, and Ryan. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the newest member of the Vol Radio Network, my friend and broadcast partner, Ramon Foster. How about that?
That was good. That was good.
What do you think about being part of the Vol Radio Network?
Mike, beyond excited, ecstatic, man. You know, because we spent time together, man, that I am all Vol, have been for a long time. I'm from Tennessee. I went to the University of Tennessee. I come back here when my professional career is done. And if you'd asked me while I was playing, I'd have said no chance. If you'd asked me in retirement, as I just hit 5 years from the NFL, I would have said no. And it just recently got real to me, Mike. And I'll be honest, it's been hard to control my excitement behind this. It has been a secret that I've had to keep. It has been fun. And Mike, that's all I can do is I sit with my wife and we've talked about it and just smile and just ready to pour in even more to this Vol network and Vol Nation that we have, Mike. It's a lot. I'll be honest with you. It's a lot that I have bottled up inside of me, if you can't tell.
Okay, so watching a game with Ramon Foster, watching a Tennessee game with him is an experience.
Yeah.
We watched the Alabama game together in Buffalo in a bar. Food was really good, by the way. We had a
awesome.
wonderful time. Ramon and I nearly shut down the bar when Will Brooks had the interception to put the game away. Would you say
Yeah.
that's accurate?
No, Mike, we did.
We did. People
did.
thought there was a medical emergency. So I know what I'm going to have to do because,
Yeah.
in doing this for a while, I know how to tamp it down. I
Yeah.
mean, you're going to be able to tell who we're for on the broadcast because it is the Vol Radio Network, and yet we'll be professional. But for you, Ramon, tamping it down, how hard do you think it's going to be?
Well, it's different when I'm in full fan mode inside of a bar and we're being very competitive. And I got you next to me, okay? You had to continually tell me, Mike Ramon, we're fine. We're good to go. And I was just so adamant because here's the thing. As a player, I have always been in the position where I had control. I want to control the game. I know what the offensive lineman should do. I know what the defense is going to do most times. And honestly, we were having a moment to where I was trying to predict what was going to happen, and I got emotional. And you had to continuously tell me, bring it back just a little bit, Ramon. Watch this and watch that. I was more impressed with what you had going on, Mike, because you predicted a lot of what happened in the rest of the game, and that honestly just opened my eyes to what you were, because I've seen you do it in a professional sense, right? But I hadn't seen you do it in a collegiate sense like that. And that night really just showed me Mike knows his stuff. And I need to get a grip over here and act like I've been here before. But I will tell you this, it'll be exciting. It'll be what I hope to be fresh, but also informative. And hopefully, because we can, and it's the Vol Network, you'll hear our fandom come out the same way as yours do. With the understanding that we still have to deliver information. But if there's a pancake block here or there, I have to point that out and get excited about it, right?
Yes, you do. That's the law.
It is.
That's the law. Well, we're excited too that Brent Hubbs will be with the Vol Network as he's been since like 1961 or something. Jason Swain will continue with us. Ramon, we're excited about having those guys as teammates and part of what we're going to do on Football Saturdays.
We are, man. Jason Swain, a former teammate of mine at UT also, that pairs well with what we have going on, man. You get a guy that understands wide receivers, quarterbacks, and coverages and stuff like that. And pairing that with myself and understanding the line of scrimmage is just a totality of the game. I think is super unique, and guys that love Tennessee too. And as you know what's fascinating about Hubs? Brent Hubs, man, I have this fixation the way you just painted it, that Brent Hubs has been around the university since the 1940s. He recently exposed his college years at Tennessee, and I said to myself, Hubs is not that old, although you feel like he is 180 years old. He's more a historian. But with that being said, it'll be a great crew. When I got enlightened about the crew, Mike, I have not stopped thinking about it. And it's just been a facilitation, honestly, of a group of guys that want to do a real good job and have a lot of fun doing it too.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun, and obviously it's going to be a different take on the Ball Radio Network because the people are different. It's a little bit different era, but the respect to the history of the Vol Radio Network will not go away because of his background as a player, because of Brent Hubbs with 30 plus years with the Vol Network, Jason Swain, and what he's done in media and as a player. And of course, I started with the Vol Radio Network back in 1987. So there is a tie-in. The other part of it, too, is that we understand what the Vol Radio Network has meant to people over the course of 75 years. And it started off with General Nealon and Lindsey Nelson saying, we want to put together a radio network where people across the state can hear our games. And what's so exciting for me in this moment is you have somebody from East Tennessee, Brent Hubbs, who grew up in Corryton. You have me, originally from Knoxville, but I grew up in Franklin, so I'm Middle Tennessee. And this guy, who played at Ripley in West Tennessee, but is from Henning, Tennessee. And when you think about your fandom growing up so far away from the University of Tennessee, but telling the story of Philip Fulmer coming to see you and what the Power Team meant to you, the Vol Radio Network clearly directly impacted Ramon Foster and is one of the reasons that you're joining us today as the 5th all-time analyst on the football broadcasts.
It really is an honor, Mike, and everything that you said. It honestly, if you ever talk to me about the University of Tennessee, not Mike Keefe or anybody else, like you will hear my passion come out on it. And it started, like you said, in Lauderdale County, Ripley, Tennessee, Henning, Tennessee, man, to where Coach Former, Coach Pat Washington came to my house, and my grandfather, my mom was there. Here we were in rural Tennessee in a double wide trailer, and Coach Former walks in. And not just that, everybody and their mom knew he was coming to the city. He flew into a very small regional airport, and I was sold. It was, but at that time, probably the biggest thing or the biggest person that had ever come through. And mind you, I'd saw a presidential candidate ride through our town, and I think people got more excited about Philip Fulmer coming to Henning, Tennessee than anybody else. But it's not just that. It's I've had teachers. I'll never forget the first time I really got exposed to the idea of going to the University of Tennessee. I have to give a shout out to this one particular gym teacher, man, Miss Ann Chipman. Mike Keefe, she told me, she said, Ramon, you're going to wear that Tennessee orange one day. You, as an 8th grader, you think to yourself, yeah, okay, Miss Ann, I'll try to make it happen. And I never forget getting that scholarship offer, that call that summer going into my senior year. And what it meant to me was, Mike, I had it at a level. Like, there's certain stuff that I wanted in recruiting, and getting that scholarship offer helped was facilitated by my high school coach, who's also a VFL, Johnny McAdams. It was cool. It was a lot of hard work that finally come to a head. I played around for a little bit as far as am I going to commit and all those types of things, man. And it's been all Vol from the beginning. I do contest my brother, Renardo, but with also, I have numerous brothers I'm sure we'll get to at some point, but Renardo went to play football at University of Louisville. But I'm also torn because my other brother, yes, Mike, I'm finally going to expose it to the world, Ron Slay. We have the same father. He was also at the University of Tennessee too. Good thing is nobody asked me, hey, come to my university. Or Ron didn't solicit me and say, hey, come to the University of Tennessee. I truly loved the recruiting that I had, and fell in love with the Vols even more so when I went on my official visit. My mom felt very safe with me being there, away from the home, her second born. You know, how moms can get sometimes. And it's just been a picture perfect story of all the things that and experiences that I've had at the University of Tennessee to be given this opportunity to really pour back in. And Mike, you, as you said, in that bar in Buffalo, when I was going bananas over the game, the Alabama game, and not just that, watching Coach Heupel, help the Vols get back to where they were, to where we become competitive with Alabama again, and having my two boys and my wife at that game whenever they tore down the goalposts a few years back was monumental. And retirement sucks, to retire from the NFL, but this is something that I wanted to get into, Mike. And you mentioned being from West Tennessee. That's an area that is very prideful with the Vols, just like the rest of the state is. And as much as we possibly can, use our voices and paint pictures to the people that'll listen to us, and just help build the brand, Mike, of what the Vols are and where they're headed. Truly a good place to be at. And it's an honor, like beyond anything that I would ever thought, because I got a lot of flack for being the media guy in the locker room with the Steelers. But it's actually something that I've always been passionate about. And this opportunity with you and Vol Networking with the University of Tennessee and all of Vol Nation, I don't think you can ask for a better position to be in right now.
So let me ask you a final question. Do you think, with you becoming the analyst for the Vol Radio Network for football games, that we are probably going to see more of Ron Slay around us with everything that we do? Do you think there's any chance that Ron Slay will show up more?
Mike, I'm telling you this. If you've been on campus with Ron Slay, you would almost think he played football, okay? From all the guys in his era of Al Wilson, Jamal Lewis, Bobby Graham, you name him, he knows him. It's almost as if he put on pads, Mike. So the fact that his brother is going into the booth with you, I promise you, you'll have to kick him out. I don't know where he's going to sit, where he's going to fit, but I guarantee you, Ron Slay will find his way until he might even try to call the studio the Boom Boom Room, Mike. He's going to find his way up often.
Remote, I can promise you he will never be kicked out. And if he wants a headset, he's got a headset, and I'll just leave. He could just he's the king of the world to me. He's certainly the king of the Big Orange world. So
No
we'll be
doubt.
excited. But this is to hear you talk about your Tennessee experience, to hear about West Tennessee, to know about how those counties love it,
Yeah.
and to know that one of their own is going to be part of the Ball Radio Network. And whether you're riding a tractor, or you're taking somebody to a ball practice, or you're hunting somewhere, or you're on the way to the grocery store, whatever you're doing, you turn on that radio and there's going to be somebody from West Tennessee on that radio, the way that Lindsey Nelson and General Neyland meant for there to be on Saturdays so they can keep up with the Big Orange. I got goosebumps thinking about you,
I
Ramon.
know. I'm listening to you speak about it, Mike, and I just got chills too. So this is going to be exciting. If you tolerate my yelling and grabbing of your forearm and cutting off your circulation.
Oh, I can take it. I'm bulking up. That's Ramon Foster. He will join Jason Swain, Brent Hubbs, and me this fall for the games on the Ball Radio Network. We'll do the orange and white game, a broadcast from 2 to 4 Eastern. Not going to be like what we're going to do in the fall. We're just going to talk some ball mostly. We're not going to do, a lot of things about what's happening on the field, because we know spring games are not typical games. But you'll get a chance, I think, to hear the kind of passion we have and how excited we are to be in these roles, but also for the 2022 Volunteers. Ramon Foster of the Vol Radio Network. Love you, brother. Can't wait to see you.
Love you too, Mike. Go Vol!
Go Vols. Want to thank Tony Vitello. Remind you, 3 games this weekend against Texas A&M at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. John Gruden, great to catch up with the former NFL coach who clearly loves the Big Orange. And a welcome to Ramon Foster, and a welcome back to Jason Swain and Brent Hubbs as part of our Vol Network football team for this fall. We're excited about all of them. Most of all, thanks to you for staying through the whole thing, because you're still here. And in case you didn't do it when the show started, do it now. Hit subscribe to the Tennessee Athletics YouTube channel. Hit that bell. You'll be able to get the juice, the Mike Keith Show, and more notifications right away, because we want you following us on the Tennessee Athletics YouTube channel. For our fine staff right here, Mike Keith says thanks for joining us, and all weekend long, Go Balls.